What's happening, everyone? Sam, aka FIFA Brit from Gold Boys, and it's everyone's favourite time of the week, the weekend. But before we dive into Saturday's soccer action, I want to say a special thank you to the sponsor of this video, Sleeper Picks. Don't forget you can use code GOLDBOYS to get a deposit match of up to $500 off. Anyway, we've had a pretty good week of soccer so far. The midweek Premier League slate was pretty good, all things considered, and now we have a fantastic weekend. Not just Premier League, we've got a bunch of other leagues in action as well. We've got a bit of Bundesliga, we've got a lot of MLS that I am loving. So we're going to talk about Saturday's games today, and then we will have another video covering Sunday's games later on. So stay tuned for that. If you aren't subscribed to our YouTube channel already, go and subscribe right now, and while you're at it, drop a like on the video. Anyway, without further ado, let's dive into Saturday's games. We're going to start in the Premier League, and the first game we have is the early kickoff, Crystal Palace against City. Now, City just played midweek. They absolutely spanked Villa 4-1. They didn't even need Haaland and De Bruyne on the field. This was an interesting one. I sort of thought that they would rest and take that one easy and just sort of grind out a 1 or a 2-0 win. Didn't think they would go out all guns blazing. That being said, they didn't have Haaland, they didn't have De Bruyne, and they still put up 4 goals. So I don't really know if there really is a safe version of this Man City team out there, but that is the angle I'm leaning towards for this game. Now, they quote-unquote only beat Palace by a couple of goals when they played at Palace previously. I have a feeling they're going to go for a 2-0 win, but then again, the last time I said that, they won 4-1, so who knows. But the odds on City moneyline and under 3.5 total goals is around even money, and if Haaland and De Bruyne sit again to play Palace in order to rest them for their big game against Madrid in the Champions League on Tuesday, then it's going to be pretty sweaty, but I do like that angle, just because Palace don't really get blown out by a crazy amount of goals, but then again, this is Man City, so that's my lean. If the main guys aren't starting, I like City moneyline and the under, and more importantly, if Haaland and De Bruyne are both out, then I absolutely love Julian Alvarez first half shots. He had something like 5 first half shots against Villa. The guy will shoot from absolutely anywhere, and you can get 2 first half shots at plus 120 and 3 first half shots at plus 400 on FanDuel. So if neither of those main guys are starting, I would absolutely pivot to Alvarez the same way that I would pivot to Luis Diaz if Salah and Nunez are playing. Next game I want to talk about is Aston Villa against Brentford. Again, this one is very lineup dependent. Ollie Watkins has been hurt. Ivan Toney got hurt before the game against Brighton, which ended up being a 0-0 stinker. He ended up sort of powering through the injury, but he did get hurt before the game. He just decided to play anyway because they deleted their tweet saying that he wasn't going to play. So this is the weird one. That being said, the books seem to think that this game is going to be full of goals. I don't necessarily agree. You could get under 3.5 total goals for around minus 150. I simply don't see a world where this game has 4 goals unless Ollie and Toney are both starting and both look really healthy. And even then, I think 4 goals is a lot of goals. So I really lean the under here, but again, it's going to be very lineup dependent. If those main guys aren't starting, love the under. If they do start, maybe tease it up a bit and take under 4.5 goals and use that as a builder piece. If they do both start, then potentially both teams to score at minus 200 also works as a builder piece. It's kind of a weird scenario where I like both teams to score, but I don't like over 3.5. I don't see 4 goals, but I do think both teams will score. Again, very lineup dependent. Next game I want to talk about is Everton against Burnley. Now, this really is the absolute battle of the mid. Burnley have just come off an 11-game streak without winning a goal. They went without a win from December 26th to March the 10th, but they've now avoided a loss in 4 straight games with 1 win and 3 ties. Everton still haven't won a game since January 17th in the Cup, and they haven't won a league game since December 16th. But that game was against Burnley. So, who's going to win this one? I really don't know, but surely somebody's streak ends here. The ballsy move would be using Burnley double chance at plus 110. Getting even money on any team not to lose to Everton, considering Everton's terrible streak right now, seems pretty good. But that being said, Burnley are pretty inconsistent. Another angle I like is under 2.5 at plus 100. But the safe play here, I think, is under 3.5 and using that as a builder piece. Simply because both of these teams are incredibly unpredictable. And when two shit teams play each other, it's easily the most boring game on earth, or you see a ridiculous amount of goals. And I don't really know which one it's going to be. And honestly, nobody does. The next game I want to talk about is Fulham against Newcastle. Again, two incredibly inconsistent teams, and I don't want to back a side either way. That being said, two of my most consistent first half shots guys, Muniz for Fulham and Isak for Newcastle, are playing against each other. Unfortunately, the books are starting to catch on. You can't really make a builder out of them. You can't take them for a first half shot each. It's about minus 140, which is pretty steep, but if you wanted to pair it with a guy like Haaland, who is almost automatic, unless he's playing against Arsenal, of course, or a guy like Jared Bowen for West Ham, who is always very consistent to at least get you one, you could maybe get the odds to around even money and play about with it there. I will most likely ladder them for 2 first half shots each and 3 first half shots each. I haven't decided how I want to approach it yet. Again, depends on the lineups. I want to see Harvey Barnes, who can facilitate service to Isak. If he's not playing, then I don't like it as much. And Muniz, well, he still shoots from anywhere, but Fulham had a really, really bad game during the week, and so I'm not as sure I want to trust them. So we will see, but I do like both of those guys for first half shots. Next game I want to talk about is Luton against Bournemouth. Now, if you guys recall, this first game between the two of them was postponed, and then when it was finally rescheduled and played, we had a 4-3 thriller, where Bournemouth came down from 3-0 down. They came back to win 4-3. So the odds kind of suck for shots, even though I think this game is going to be very back and forth again. But again, I would use both teams to score at around minus 200 as a builder piece. Both teams to score at over 2.5 is not quite where I want it to be. It's about minus 150. Not worth it straight, but both teams to score works very nicely as a builder piece. Lots of builder pieces here, so I will probably end up parlaying a bunch of these leans together to make some sort of very nice all slate, sweat that we can enjoy. But none of these games have particularly brilliant value for a straight bet, which is unfortunate, but sometimes that's the way it is. We're never going to force a play if we don't like the value. Next game I want to talk about is Wolves against West Ham. This is a weird one. I lean the under, but both teams can easily choke a lead, so I'm not going to back a side here. I don't love any of the lines, but as I said previously, Bowen for a first half shot, usually pretty reliable. Again, he hasn't really got the upside value that he used to when guys like Paqueta and Antonio weren't playing, but he's usually good for one. Last Premier League game of the day is Brighton against Arsenal. Now, in case you guys don't know, I'm a massive Arsenal fan. I could talk about them all day long. That being said, we've never really played Brighton that well historically. But that being said, again, you will never ever see Arsenal money line and over 1.5 at minus 113 on FanDuel. Like that is something that has hit almost every league game in 2024, and you're getting almost even money. We beat them 2-0 at the Emirates, and I really think, even though we have Champions League against Bayern on Tuesday, we should be able to put Brighton to bed and win 2-0. Maybe it's 2-1 and it gets a little bit sweaty because we didn't look super convincing against Luton. But again, these are odds that you're never, ever, ever going to see on a team like Arsenal. And so when they come around, I really think you should take them. Even if guys like Saka aren't playing, I would still take this. Just because our squad looks so strong right now, and I've never had this much confidence in an Arsenal side in ages. I still feel confident saying it. So that's probably one of my favorite bets. The value there is great. I'll be taking a similar bet on Leverkusen when we start to cover the Bundesliga, but I think that's fantastic value. All right, speaking of the Bundesliga, we are now going to head over to Germany. I have a couple of games I want to talk about. The first one is FC Heidenheim against Bayern Munich. Now, as we know, Bayern are playing Arsenal on Tuesday. They might not be coming out all guns blazing, but this game is usually chock full of goals. I think the last time they played was something like 4-3, and then the only other time they played in history was like 5-4. This game is usually ball to the wall offense. No one can really defend. And so I absolutely love the value. And this is one of the couple plays I have locked in ahead of time. Both teams to score over 2.5, and a goal scored in both halves is minus 125 on FanDuel. I absolutely love that. I very rarely bring in the goals scored in both half props simply because losing a both teams to score an over 2.5 play by adding that in, if they all come in one half, is probably the worst way to lose that. But it works fantastically well as a leg to reduce the juice on a game you think is going to be pretty high scoring. So minus 125, I think that's great value. This game should be full of goals, and then hopefully Bayern score a bunch, and then they will most likely sub off their guys to rest against Arsenal. That's why I'm not going to touch any player props, because playing time is kind of up in the air. But regardless of who's on the field, I see this game having loads of goals. The other game I want to talk about in the Bundesliga that I alluded to earlier is Union Berlin against Leverkusen. Now, again, similar to Arsenal, Leverkusen moneyline and over 1.5 is something that has hit in almost all of their games this season, and we are getting minus 119 on FanDuel. I like that all the way down to around minus 125 or minus 130, even if they aren't playing their super strong lineup. I would love to see guys like Schick, Wirtz, Frimpong, and Grimaldo starting, but if they're running out guys like Adli, I don't really mind. Leverkusen to win and over 1.5. I don't see them winning 1-0 because they very rarely do that. And I don't see Union Berlin staying in this game. So I think that's pretty good value as well. I'm going to hold up and locking it in just to see if guys like Wirtz are playing. He's really the big player that I want to see in the lineup. If he's not, don't love it. If he is, I don't care who else they got at striker. He will make stuff happen on his own. Now, I want to talk about one game in the Serie A just because they're two fairly big teams. Roma against Lazio. This is a weird one. I don't respect Lazio at all, so I do lean Roma moneyline. But Roma have been a little bit inconsistent recently. Lineups are important here again. If Lukaku and Dybala aren't starting, then I would pivot to under 2.5. It's going to be pretty juicy. It's around minus 140 right now, but I would take it up to minus 150. This game, I think, has gone under 2.5 in the history of its entire matchup, or at least in the past several years. This game has 1-0, 1-all written all over it. So if the big guns aren't playing, love the under on this game. Moving over to the United States, the MLS is back. And there have been some pretty good games coming up on the horizon. First game I'm going to talk about is Cincinnati against the Red Bulls. Both teams to score is minus 126. This really hinges on Emil Forsberg being fit again. He's missed the past couple of games for the Red Bulls, and he is a massive part of their offense, even though Van Zier and Lewis Morgan are absolutely cooking together. But Cincinnati and the Red Bulls are both looking really strong right now. Both are pretty solid teams, but I trust their offense enough that they can both get a goal each. And both teams to score at around minus 125. I would play that down to 130, minus 130. Love the value there. Pretty good as a straight bet. I also like Revs against Charlotte. That's the New England Revolution, if you aren't in the know. Now, the Revs have got off to one of their worst starts in club history. They currently have 0 wins, 1 tie, 4 losses, sitting at the bottom of the East, and Charlotte actually look pretty good. You can get Charlotte's tie no bet at plus 114, or you can take the Charlotte double chance, probably around minus 250 or so, and again, use that as a very nice builder piece. Good value there no matter which way you attack it, but I'm absolutely fading the Revs at all costs here. The last and possibly best game of the weekend is El Tráfico, aka LAFC against LA Galaxy. This is one of the best matchups in the entire MLS. Statistically speaking, it's the highest scoring matchup between two teams on average in the entire league. Both teams to score in over 2.5 has hit in gotta be over 2/3 of these matchups, and that is the exact bet that I'm going to lock in ahead of time. I actually locked that in a few days ago, and the odds are still good. You can get it for -139 on FanDuel, and I went a little bit heavier on this one. I played this one to win 1.5 units, just because it is one of the best games in the MLS. It's absolute must-see viewing, and if for some reason the goals don't come in this game, then the rematch will be on July 4th as the late game kickoff. So if this game doesn't deliver, I can almost guarantee that the next one will. Because if what screams America more than one of the best MLS games on July 4th? I don't know, but I'll be looking forward to it anyway. Anyway, that is the Saturday soccer slate, all locked in as always. When I lock in my plays officially, everything will be in my Discord channel. If you haven't signed up for Gold Boys, the link will be in the description. Now is a fantastic time to join. NBA playoffs are coming up. MLB is getting started. We've already hit some absolute bangs. So if you haven't joined, make sure you sign up. I will also try and get some plays out on my Twitter. If you aren't following me, it is @FIFABrit. As always, if you do think you have a gambling problem, don't forget to call the number 1-800-GAMBLER. And yeah, it's been your boy Sam, aka FIFA Brit from Gold Boys. Enjoy your weekend. We're gonna have a great one, and I'll catch you next time.